Welcome to Intro to A3. If you've been in my classes before, you know that we review a lot of what we've done in our previous class before we continue on to our new learning. We can use many of these slides through a Creative Commons license. So thank you, Mike Rother. First thing we're going to talk about is scientific thinking. We know when we look at a problem, when we walk into a meeting, when we look at a new project, we're thinking to ourselves, what is the purpose of the change? How are we improving the actual work? How are we building capacity? And what new behaviors, both in leadership and management, is required for the change to occur? We also think about what basic thinking and mindset and assumptions and constraints exist not only within our project, but also within our culture. We know that when we look at scientific thinking, hoping to create a change by just listening to it, going to a class, reading a book, really doesn't work. We don't behave a certain way because we lack information. We behave one way or another because it's a habit. And if you've been to the coaching habit workshops, you know that that's one of the ways that we align what we're doing in regards to our lean transformation, aligning habits with lean. Because you don't go out and run 20 miles on the very first day of training for a marathon. You run out and run maybe a quarter mile. Improvement katas, routines, another word for routine, and coaching katas, another word for routines, are all about developing a scientific pattern of thinking. And the way that we do that is through deliberate practice. And there are 4 steps of the improvement kata model. The very first step is, what is the final direction? What is the final challenge? Where are we headed? Because without a purpose, without understanding the process, without understanding the people involved, it's hard to get things done. Purpose is what the customer's problem is. Process is how will the organization assess each of the major value streams as we understand the purpose of the problem. And finally, when we talk about the people, how can the organization ensure that every important process has someone responsible not only for today, but also for sustainment. But then we have to take a step back and we have to understand the current situation. Some people call it the as is. The current situation is where we are at today. And what we know is that something is broken. There are symptoms of a broken process. Maybe the customer is unhappy. So when we talk about establishing the next target condition, is we want to describe the future state that is just beyond our current threshold of knowledge. Remember, the improvement kata is used to navigate unclear territory. It provides a test, a hypothesis to test against. When we ask, what is preventing us from just working the new way? It reveals the obstacles. That's the start to writing down what is going on. And it also describes your future state using measurable metrics. Now, what is the target condition also deals with, as I mentioned moments ago, with the interim goal. In Agile, we might say that there's a series of sprints to get to the next target condition. In PMI, we may say there are several milestones before we finish this particular phase. The target condition only describes where we want to be next. But remember, between the next target condition and our current condition is the threshold of knowledge. We understand the current situation, we analyze our causes, and we try different experiments, study the results, and make our adjustments. There are different types of process maps. One of my favorites is the SIPOC, a simple high-level view of a process on one page. There's also top-down, functional deployment map, or what I like to call swim lanes, value stream map, and spaghetti diagrams. In this course, we'll take a look at a couple of them. Process mapping basics. Key process mapping concepts. What is a process? A process is a series of repeatable tasks leading to a predictable outcome. Anything you do that ends in ing is a process. All work is based on a process. Key process mapping concepts, efficiencies and effectiveness. All processes have several things in common. They take time, speed over efficiency, and they generate some form of output, quality over efficiency. Some goals of process mapping include streamlining a process to make it faster and more efficient, and to improve the quality of its output. Process mapping concepts. Process perspectives. There are 4 perspectives on any process: the way you think it works, the way it should work, the way it could work, and the way it really works. Of those, the way it really works is how you want to map out the process. Go and see. The Gemba. Walking the process is the best or more preferred way to see how things actually work. Remember, the Gemba, where the real work resides, where the customer meets the problem. There is where the answers reside, not in a conference room. Key process mapping concepts. Processes can be mapped out in varying levels of detail. Map it to the level of detail required to help you discover and fix the root causes. We're using the word fix in the context of countermeasures, and not in the context of permanent solutions. Large processes are really made up of a series of smaller sub-processes that are linked together. It is usually the linked areas that we should look at first. Process maps can vary in terms of where the processes being mapped should start and end. This is called the scope of the process. Pay particular attention to this aspect of the process. Key process mapping concepts. Master record of reference. Your process map serves as part of the master documentation on how the process works. The map is often part of the process control plan that includes a description of each step, tool, job aid, standard work instruction. What's really important to understand about the master record of reference is that it's not permanent and it doesn't sit on a shelf and gather dust. It is a living document that goes through changes and evolves as the business needs evolve with it. Aligned with research and development needs, it is really important to place document control information on your process map. Key process mapping concepts: current state and future state. By creating a current state process map, which shows how the process actually works today, we create the as is, the current state, the current situation. Analyzing that map will provide improvement ideas. Based on those ideas, you construct a future state process map, indicating how the improved process will work. That becomes the basis for standardization, training, and continuous process improvement. Key process mapping concept. What to look for. When reviewing the current map for improvement opportunities, look for things such as the 8 wastes, bottlenecks, redundant activities, activities that make no sense, things that take too long, streamlining, opportunities, defect points of origin. But most important, when reviewing the current map for improvement opportunities, we review it from the point of view of the entire value stream. So it is very important to have value stream mapping as part of the current state or as is. When reviewing the current state map for improvement opportunities, and when we're looking at the 8 wastes, the possible bottlenecks, and the redundant activities, that we not look at them in a silo, that we not look at them from just that one point of view, and that we expand our mind and look at them from all of the major key stakeholders' points of view, so that when we eliminate this, we're actually eliminating it and doing no harm, to use an agile phrase. Key process mapping concept: value, analysis, and goals. In improving processes, one goal is to eliminate the waste, the non-value added activities, and conduct. In a typical process, it's common to find less than 5% of the time is dedicated to CVA. In other words, activities that allow us to continuously evaluate the process and continuously improve. Process maps greatly help in visualizing these opportunities. Key process mapping concept: value, analysis, approach. Once you have mapped your process, you can analyze it based on the type of value each step is creating. As we look at the value-added and non-value added activities, we can identify what steps are adding value and what steps are not, and may need to be eliminated once we have identified that there is no impact on any of the other parts of the value stream. Process mapping material needs. Optional stopwatch, clipboard, calculator, digital camera, measuring tape. SIPOC. What is a SIPOC? Supplier, input, process, output, customer. Who are the providers that input into the process? What are the inputs required by the process? What are the processes themselves that convert the input into an output? And from an output point of view, what are the services delivered by the process? What are the products delivered? And from a customer point of view, the recipient of the process output. The purpose of the SIPOC is a high-level picture of the process, and it helps the team agree on project boundaries and scope. It clarifies and identifies suppliers to and customers of the process. Great communication aid throughout the project. Here you see on your screen the anatomy of a SIPOC. Sequence for creating a SIPOC. Sequence for creating a SIPOC. Steps. What is the output? What is the purpose of the process? Who are the customers? List 5 to 7 major process steps. List the overall input needed. List the suppliers of those inputs. The following is an example of street repair process. Notice the customers is the citizens. But another key stakeholder is also the supervisor over the project. And what are the outputs? Well, the street's going to be repaired, but we're also going to have some paperwork that has to be done for regulatory purposes. So what exactly is the process? Well, we drive up, we set up, we repair, and then we clean up. So what are some of the inputs that are required? Well, first you need to have a problem like a pothole. You're going to need some tools and people. You're definitely going to need some materials. And you're going to need some paperwork, a schedule, and probably some governmental or regulatory paperwork. And who are the suppliers? Well, the suppliers is the work department for the city and the dispatcher that's going to go ahead and dispatch this work. So we've got the work department, the workers, and the dispatchers. This is a great example of a SIPOC. Here's another example of a SIPOC for the hiring process. Notice the customers, the output, the process has a sub right at the bottom. Sub-processes are laid out. The inputs, and the suppliers. Swim lanes. Functional development map. Like the top-down chart, a functional development map displays the steps depicted in a process in sequential order. The functional map also illustrates where each step is performed and who is involved. Functional development maps generally take considerable time to prepare, but they are extremely useful in understanding a process prior to attempting improvements. Flowchart symbols. The oval shows where the process starts and ends. A rectangle is designated for a step in the process. A diamond represents a decision point, and the arrow indicates the direction or flow in the process. Here you see the anatomy of a swim lane map. Who does the work? What will they do? Creating a swim lane process map. We establish the start and end of the boundaries. Use one axis to list the people. List each of the process steps. List steps, activities, and decisions. Identify the sequential order. Use arrows to indicate the direction and the flow. And finally, we have constructed a functional deployment process map, better known as a swim lane. Below, you see a swim lane. Whenever the arrows cross one of the columns, responsibility shifts. These workflows help highlight the handoffs, where you run the risk of dropping the baton. Welcome back. Let's talk about countermeasures. Are work changes permanent? Ask yourself that question again. Are the changes in your job area permanent? Are the changes in the processes that you have to work with permanent? Have things changed since you joined in your role? Have processes changed? Have policy changed? Have people changed? Have tools changed? I am certain that you've answered yes to many of these questions. Therefore, my question to you is, then why are we looking for solutions? When one thinks about a solution, one hears or jumps to a conclusion that the problem has been fixed, because a solution implies a means of solving a problem permanently. And things change. Things change every day. So an action taken to counteract a hazard, to counteract a risk, to counteract a peril or a threat is temporary in nature, as long as we accept that we are open to a change. So countermeasures are changes, and those changes are not permanent. Solutions shouldn't be either. Countermeasures are not solutions. This is a difficult concept to accept for many of us because of the importance that our culture places on solving problems. In other words, on solving problems permanently so that they never happen again. Countermeasures can, at first glance, appear to be nothing more than a temporary fix or fixes to a problem rather than a permanent solution. Even though this is counterintuitive to what organizations are trying to achieve within a lean context, countermeasures can be a temporary solution that lasts 20 years. As long as we accept that whatever it is that we're doing may change. What we do in lean is that we try to put processes in place that control what we call variation to change. And when there is a variation, that variation be predictable so that we can anticipate and create the change as opposed to react to the change. In reality, though, countermeasures at first glance can appear like nothing more than a temporary fix, but this is just the opposite, because a solution or solution thinking mindset can give a false sense of security. Solution implies finality, an end to discovery. Permanent solutions, we implement countermeasures to make positive changes to an existing root cause. But this new condition isn't perfect yet and will never be. That's the mindset. Kaizen, continuous improvement. Welcome back. Let's talk about catchball. What is catchball? The name catchball comes from the idea of playing catch with your team to find solutions to a problem or to set direction or strategy. Catchball describes value-added ideas being thrown back and forth from management to the team members and team members to management in an attempt to reach consensus on how to reach the next target condition. Here we can see the catchball process. We can see communication going downstream and negotiation and alignment moving upstream as leaders discuss their vision with business unit executives, which in turn discuss with department heads and frontline people. Keep in mind that communication is going down, negotiation and alignment is moving upward. So this is a collaborative effort. Catchball. We start with a vision. A vision or a challenge by leadership. Vision is tossed to the business unit managers. Business unit leaders take that vision and translate that vision into strategy. Business units play catchball with leaders. Will this strategy achieve the vision? There is dialogue, guidance, negotiation, and alignment until we have consensus. Strategy is now tossed to departments or middle managers, which translates the strategy into programs and projects. Departments play catchball with the business units. Dialogue, guidance, negotiation, and alignment until we reach consensus. Programs and projects are now tossed to the frontline employees, which translates these program and projects into actionable activities. Frontline plays catchball with departments or middle managers. Will these activities achieve program and project goals? Dialogue, guidance, negotiation, and alignment until we reach consensus. Below a picture of strategy deployment key features within catchball. Notice how the executive team is throwing it to the business unit, and there's negotiation in regards to reaching consensus, and then the business units move to the middle managers, or middle management moves over to front lines. Recipe for success is both the leader and the team agreeing upon a path chosen, and both take equal accountability for the outcomes. It all sounds great, but it requires work and patience in achieving consensus and playing catchball. You must fight the urge to just delegate the task, give up control, and fight the mentality of, I'm the boss, I'm the smartest person in the room.